Bear with me. I haven't spoken in front of the congregation in a long time. I actually feel better in front of city officials and people at Google. But anyway, uh, so today we're going to talk about living a more Christian life. What the commandments that Jesus gave us to to be more like Him and to uh, I mean the love. I guess love is really the main thing here. But anyway. So what does living a Christian life mean? To be more Christ-like. For me, it was a realization that everyone is part of the family and that we all should love each other. No matter what, no matter who you are or where you're from, your past or anything, is that you must love everyone. So we all know where the beginning started. It all started with the Ten Commandments in Exodus 20. You guys want to turn there? I love the Bible app too, I'll tell you. It's awesome. I have it on my phone, so sometimes I'll just flip through it, just pick a random verse for the day and just kind of read along. I usually end up reading a chapter or two, so it's just nice to have it right there in my pocket. Because those little tiny New Testament Bibles, I used to carry one of those around for a long time, and it's just too small. I just can't read it. So, all right. So Exodus 20, verse 1. Then God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol, or any likeness of what is in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the water under the earth. You shall not worship them, or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers of the children, on the third and the fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing loving kindness to thousands of those who love me and keeping my commandments. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all of your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall not do any work, you and your son or your daughter, your male or your female servant, or your cattle, or your sojourner who stays with you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be prolonged in the land which the Lord your God gives you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear a false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male servant, or his female servant, or his ox, or his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. All right. So, you know the story of the Ten Commandments. Moses came down from the mountains, saw that, they had bore forth a golden calf, and, he was very angered, threw the tablets down, and it was just a mess. I mean, he was gone for so long, and the people got restless and everything, and it's, these commandments, they're simple, and I like what Jesus does in the New Testament, personally, because it really simplifies it. It breaks it down into two main components. So, in Matthew 22, 35 through 40, and I thought this was really cool because they actually have the same story in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And I did a little research checking to see if it was in John, but it's not. So, for whatever reason, I still think it's odd. Okay. So Matthew 22:35 says, one of them, a lawyer, this is while Jesus is out, he's doing a lot of he's doing a lot of parables, and he's doing a lot of miracles and everything. And it's a really great time to be in this time period following churches around, I mean, you get to see the power of Jesus. You get to see, in your own life, you get to see these things. So it can only be amazing. But a lawyer asked him a question, testing him. He says, "Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?" And he said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and foremost commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as you love yourself. On these two commandments depend the whole law and the prophets." All right, same thing. Same thing in Mark, chapter 12, 28 through 31. The only bad thing about having a Bible app is you can't hear the pages rustling. It's the only thing I don't like. Maybe we can add that in. All right. So, there you go. Dinger would be nice. Ding, you found what you're looking for. One of the scribes came and heard them arguing and recognized that he had answered him well, asked him, "What commandment is the foremost of all?" And Jesus answered, "The foremost is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your strength. And the second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these." See, I mean, you have two different writers writing about the exact same thing. I mean, they were both there, Sometimes you catch a little bit of a conversation, and then you try and tell your friend about it. It's like the old game telephone, You have a line of people. One person over here whispers into one ear, and somebody listens to another ear, and somebody listens to another ear, and he said, he said lawn care down here, and the last guy says platypus, and you don't know why. So it always leaves a little bit to interpretation. I mean, they were all there, but a little bit of it differently. The writing style is a little bit different, but they're both saying the same thing here. Now in Luke, though, the story is totally different. So this is the part that I really like, because it really turns the whole conversation on its ear. So depending on when the actual time was of this, I don't know if they were there at the exact same time for this exact same conversation, or if it was a different person, but the story still remains the same. So in Luke 10, oh, cool. I didn't realize that. All right, so Luke 10, 25, 37. 25 through 37, I should say. And a lawyer stood up and put him to the test, saying, "Teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?" And he said to him, "What is written in the law? How does it read to you?" And he answered. See, now this is the total opposite. Jesus isn't answering the lawyer. Jesus turned it on its ear, and he asked the lawyer, what he knew of the law, because in this time period, the lawyer usually knew a lot about the scripture and the laws of the land and everything, so he would know the exact answer to this question. So the lawyer answered. He said, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all the strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." And he said to him, "You have answered correctly. Do this, and you will live." But wishing to justify himself, he said to Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" Now this is the question right here. This is the one that I really like. It's the best question he could have ever asked. I mean, who is your neighbor? Is it just the people in your church family? Is it people who live next door to you? People in your school or you go to work with? It's everyone. Everyone is your neighbor. The entire human family is your neighbor. Everybody you meet on the street, everybody in a Starbucks, everybody at a Walmart, they're all your neighbor. So Jesus explains it here in Luke with a parable of the Good Samaritan. Now, I don't know if a lot of people know this or not, but I'll put it in a little bit of perspective is that Samaritans themselves were probably just about the lowest of the low in the social food chain in this time period, right next to the Gentiles, who, depending on where you look, are mostly non-Jewish people or pagans or heathens. So I've kind of got a little conflicting information online. So when I was doing some research, so it could be anybody who's not Jewish or anybody who's considered to be a pagan or a heathen. So now Samaritans generally were usually half Jewish and half Gentile, so they're kind of a mix of two different cultures. Half breed, like a elf. But anyway, we're not going to get into that either. And they were really thought of as just the really underlying underbelly of society. So, so this man, the Samaritan, he wouldn't even have a second look given to him as he was walking down the street. Nobody would pay him a mind. Nobody would pay him any attention, and they'd rather curse at him or spit at him as soon as just walk by him. So, think about when someone says that they're being a good Samaritan and that they had helped someone. Do they really understand the context that this is really put into? When you say somebody's being a good Samaritan, we all know the story. We're going to go through it here in just a minute, but the context in which it was put in at that time really makes it stand out because of who is in the story of the Good Samaritan. So, if you want to go to the Good Samaritan story, it's 30 through 37 in Luke there. Okay. I'll split it up weird. Oh well. All right. So Jesus replied, "A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among robbers, and they stripped him and beat him, and they went away, leaving him half dead. And by chance, a priest was going down on that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side of him. Likewise, a Levite also, he came to the place and saw him, and passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, who was on a journey, came upon him, and when he saw him, he felt compassion, and came to him and bandaged up his wounds, pouring oil and wine on them. And he put him on his own beast, and brought him to the inn, and took care of him. On the next day, he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper and said, 'Take care of him, and whatever more you spend, when I return, I will repay you.' Which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell upon the robber's hands?" And he said, "The one who showed mercy toward him." And then Jesus said to him, "Go and do the same." Okay. So this story to me, it really means a lot to me. I try my very best to make sure that I do for others, regardless of what it is, no matter how small it may be. In the work that I do, I spend a lot of time in my truck. I drive around a lot of different neighborhoods and stuff, and you always drive by, and you always see somebody holding that sign saying, "Please help. Anything helps. God bless." And since I'm on the road a lot, and I really don't like to eat out, I usually keep a lot of snacks and stuff in the truck. So sometimes I'll have granola bars or Pop-Tarts, or it's just something little to snack on. And if I get the chance, I try and make sure that I give it to them. If it means that day I have to eat a Wendy's cheeseburger instead, I'm going to go ahead and do it. But so if you notice here, Jesus says that a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. Jerusalem itself is on a hill, and Jericho is down this nice, steep, dangerous road. And it makes it perfect for thieves and robbers to jump out, gang up on you, take whatever you've got. So these robbers, they leapt out and they robbed this man, and they beat him and left him for dead. Now, see, this is all important because of the direction in which he was headed. In this culture, in this society, in the time, it really plays an important role here. So if you were a priest or a Levite and you were to touch a dead person, or even just a Jew at that point, if you were to touch a dead person, you would become unclean and you wouldn't be able to perform your duties in the temple. So, because the priest and the Levite were heading down the same road, that the victim was, to me that means that they had already performed their temple duties for the day and they were heading on their way home. So the question I ask myself is, why would they have left God's temple teaching God's love and moved out of their way to go around this poor man? Maybe they were too in it for themselves. Maybe they didn't care really. Maybe they just cared about the law. But we all know that the law is treat your neighbor as yourself, love everybody, and help when you can. So the Samaritan went above and beyond what anyone would have expected him to do and took extreme care of this man that he had no connection to at all. Just that he's another person that, needed help. So right there, that's the point that that Jesus is trying to make to the lawyer. That no matter who you are, your position in society, your upbringing, your past, anything that you do, your education, we're all asked to love and take care of your neighbor, and that's us, our brothers and our sisters. We are all part of one human family, and we should treat it as such. We all love our brothers, we all love our sisters, we love our fathers and mothers and grandparents, aunts and uncles. We need to do what Jesus instructed us to do. We need to make sure that we bring love, glory, and honor to God, praising Him every day, thanking Him for the things that He does for us every day. Every day this side of the grass is a present from God. And if you treat your neighbor as you would want to be treated, the world would be a happier place. There's no doubt about that. If we all treated each other, I don't know about you guys, I love myself. I think I'm a pretty awesome guy. So I try to make sure that everybody else feels just like that. Everybody feels loved. Everybody feels awesome, because you're awesome. We all are. We just need to make sure that everybody else knows. For me, the Bible, the entire story, all of it to me means love. And that's what we need to do. We need to love ourselves, love one another, because if you can't love yourself, it's going to be very hard for you to love anybody else. You got to know who you are, know where you got to be, and ensure that you love everyone as equally, if not more. You should love everybody more than you love yourself. But I just want the world to be a better place. I want us to show the world that we have that love in us, that we can love everybody. So that's really all I've got. So I wish it was a little bit longer, but I guess I kind of read fast. I like to talk fast and move my hands around. So let's bow our heads and end in prayer and get some of that food that's downstairs. This smells really good.